Gambia registered more than 10 new COVID-19 cases for the first time since September. Nigerian government provides bailout support to aviation industry severely hit by COVID-19. Donald Trump refuses to accept Joe Biden's projected victory a week after the 2020 election day ballots. These and more coming your way on the News Desk. This is Africa TV and many thanks for joining us. I am Amadou Kante and now the news in detail. Now we begin with matters of COVID-19 because the Gambia has reported a double digit in new COVID-19 cases for the first time since the end of September. Between September 30 and November 8, new COVID-19 infections range between 1 and 7 cases per day. The CISE has more details of that in this report.
On Tuesday, the Ministry of Health reported 12 new COVID-19 cases. This has taken the total number of confirmed cases in the country to 3,696. The West African nation's return to double-digit infections comes after the time when the COVID-19 pandemic continues to be a global health problem as some European countries enter the second wave of infections. The Gambia has seen a massive recovery rate of COVID-19 patients, with only 31 active cases as of 9th of November. 3,543 people have recovered from the virus. And with one additional death on Tuesday, the total number of deaths recorded since March is now 122. The drop in new infections have been linked to a drop in the numbers of new COVID-19 tests conducted, despite the fact that health authorities in the Gambia recorded 252 new laboratory test results. The country currently has 25 people in quarantine. COVID-19 restrictions have been severely relaxed with the reopening of airspace, land borders and public places like nightclubs and bars and restaurants. People are no longer observing health regulations that encourage hand washing and made the wearing of nose masks in public places mandatory. Meanwhile, on the other side of the Atlantic, Italy, Spain, France and Germany are seeing a resurgence of COVID-19 cases after successfully slowing outbreaks early this year. As a result, France restores a lockdown on Friday, ordering people to stay at home except for essential work or medical reasons. For iAfrica News, I am Daisy.
As the world continued to battle against the COVID-19 pandemic, the Gambia registered more than 10 cases for the first time in months. Now, we move to Nigeria because the Nigerian government is providing a relief package for the country's aviation industry amid the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. The industry was adversely affected as flights were grounded for most of 2020 due to the limited movement of people. As the government is expected to dispose the funds in the coming days, some experts say only badly hit airlines should benefit from the financial support. Let's have more details of that in this report.
It had always been a question of the size of the bailout and not if the federal government would provide funding support for the Nigerian aviation industry. The question has now been answered by the country's aviation minister.
The federal government has provided 4 billion naira for airlines and 1 billion naira for other businesses within the civil aviation. We are putting criteria for the disbursement of those funds, and once it is done, it will be transparently done and they will be so disbursed.
The disbursement of the funds is expected to begin in the coming days. It will come as a relief for an industry that was already facing serious funding challenges even before the COVID-19 pandemic hit. But some experts say the process needs to be reviewed to ensure only deserving airlines get funds.
The same minister that announced the 5 billion for the airline said that the airline are owing 19 billion and $6 million. 19 billion naira and $6 million. So the question I ask is, what is the wisdom in giving them money when they are owing? So if there are people that are not owing among the airline, it's okay. They could be entitled to the bailout. But if there are people, if there are airlines If there are airlines that are owing, they should not be entitled to any kobo of that 5 billion.
This is not the first time that the government is offering bailouts to the aviation industry. Hefty bailouts by the government between 2009 and 2012 failed to turn the industry around. That led to accusations that some airlines simply misused the funds.
In 2012, they collected over 200 billion. The question is, what did they do with it? What did they, those who collected the 200 billion, what did they do with it? How many of them have returned?
It's not clear if the latest bailout will make any difference. But one thing is certain, the Nigerian aviation industry is in a bad shape. The situation worsened by the COVID-19 pandemic. All airlines have been forced to lay off staff and have also slashed salaries. Most of them are deep in debt.
The aircraft that flies, the onboard service, the airport that receives, and the parts aircraft, the engineers, the pilots, the entire value chain of aviation has been tremendously affected. If we're going to talk in figures, I mean, we've been talking about figures in the past. It's tons and billions of dollar loss.
The $13 million bailout fund is certainly low compared to what some aviation experts have said is needed to turn the sector around. But at this time, just anything the industry can lay its hands on will go some way to help address some of the challenges bedeviling an industry that needs every and any help it can get at the moment.
From the report there in Abuja, Nigeria, we come back home. Now, on Saturday, President Adama Barrow's National People's Party, NPP, won the by-elections in Nyamina West constituency and Kerjarga ward. Africa TV has been sounding the opinion of citizens on the outcome of Saturday's parliamentary and ward elections, respectively. Fatumata Kasim tells us more of that in this report.
The two elections were held in the Central and North Bank regions for vacant seat in the National Assembly and the Kerewan Area Council. In Nyamina West, the NPP's Biram Sow defeated Yero Jallow of the Gambia Democratic Congress GDC by 910 votes to gain a seat in the National Assembly for the first time. Also, NPP Awagay emerged victorious in Kerjarga ward for the councillor seat in that region. Mariama Kamara thinks the by-election was unfair, and despite the lack of evidence of voter fraud, she thinks votes were bought.
The by-election was unfair because the parliamentarians and the ministers all went to Mama Kande's village, in which they were said to have been buy votes from people. The election was not fair. If only it was fair, then ministers like Hamad Ba would not have been at Mama Kande's village to campaign for Barrow.
Mama Kande is the leader of GDC. He is neither from Kerjarga nor Nyamina West. He is originally from Jimara in the Upper River region. Another citizen who also spoke to iAfrica, Alaji Jammeh, rejected the idea that Saturday's polls were not fair. He said the results are a reflection of the voices of the people who participated in the elections.
Lamba dal ni la. Lamba kuñ mus di dalel fokk mu am lu mo wax.
This is how election is. The one who loses must have something to say. You never win someone and they say it's fair. But who sees it will know that the election was fair. Because where we voted, that's where the results were counted. People say malpractice happens. But I can say there is no malpractice in elections.
Fafa Sanyang also said that this is a delightful moment for NPP, one of many new political parties in the Gambia.
Kerjarga ward and Nyamina West by-election.
If you see the margin we've won, we have the hope that in 2021, National People's Party will have landslide victory, or they can at least have more than 50% of votes.
The by-election followed the passing of the GDC parliamentarian in Nyamina West and the resignation of the Kerjarga ward councillor, who have since joined Barrow's National People's Party. For iAfrica TV, I am Fatumata Kasim.
And from the report there by Fatmata Kasim on the by-elections in the Gambia, now we report on the president's elections in the U.S. where the White House press secretary Colin McNanny said on Monday that the United States election contest is far from over, accusing Democrats of fraud during the vote counting. The Trump administration refuses to accept Joe Biden's projected victory, and President Trump has made unsubstantiated fraud claims of the election process. Sana Tunkara has more detail of that in this report.
Trump and his campaign have made baseless accusations of large-scale voter fraud in Pennsylvania and other states where his Democratic rival Joe Biden smashed most of the votes. Mr. Trump's press secretary says the legal battle to contest Mr. Biden's victory was only just beginning and far from over.
This election is not over, far from it. We have only begun the process of obtaining an accurate, honest vote count. We are fighting for the rights of all Americans who want to have faith and confidence not only in this election, but in the many elections to come. There is only one party in America that opposes voter ID. One party in America that opposes verifying signatures, citizenship, residency, eligibility. There is only one party in America trying to keep observers out of the count room. And that party, my friends, is the Democrat Party.
Donald Trump took to social media several times since last Tuesday, calling for a halt to counting of mail-in ballots, and had earlier last Wednesday declared victory. Trump and his Republican supporters have been criticized for making baseless accusations against Biden and the Democrats on election irregularities, and are now requesting transparency if they have nothing to hide.
You don't take these positions because you want an honest election. You don't oppose an audit of the vote because you want an accurate count. You don't oppose our efforts at sunlight and transparency because you have nothing to hide. You take these positions because you are welcoming fraud and you are welcoming illegal voting. Our position is clear. We want to protect the franchise of the American people. We want an honest, accurate, lawful count. We want maximum sunlight. We want maximum transparency. We want every legal vote to be counted, and we want every illegal vote to be discarded. Unlike our opponents, we have nothing to hide. The integrity of our election matters. The Constitution of the United States matters. What we have seen across the country is Democrat officials systematically trying to do an end run around the Constitution to tip the scales of the election in their favor.
According to Trump's press secretary at the White House, Republican poll watchers who are legally permitted to be there and observe the vote count were blocked from observing the count. She said their observers were put behind barricades in a massive room that was hostile to their work. These comments came as incumbent U.S. President Donald Trump has not yet given a consensus speech after his opponent Joe Biden declared victory in the U.S. presidential election on November 7th. For iAfrica TV, Sohna Tunkara.
Donald Trump yet to accept the projected victory for Joe Biden. And of course, we will wait and see what will be the outcome of the ongoing process from both ends. Interesting times ahead. There's more news coming ahead, but for now, we'll take a break and come back shortly with the remaining of the stories. Stay with us, we'll be right back. Welcome back, and many thanks for joining us. Now, the Minister of Health has on Monday launched a fogging machine provided to the Banjul City Council through the National Malaria Control Program. The machine is provided to fumigate the capital city, Banjul, to get rid of the malaria-carrying mosquitoes. The CC has more details of that again in this report.
Malaria cases in the Gambia are worst in the Greater Banjul. As a result, the Ministry of Health on Monday inaugurated a fogging machine provided through the National Malaria Control Program to fumigate Banjul. The Minister of Health, Dr. Ahmad Lamin Samate, said that providing quality healthcare service for the people is a top priority for the government.
But we want to assure the people of this country, and today the people of the city of Banjul, that public health is going to be at the forefront of the strive of this government to provide quality healthcare services for the people of this country. Very soon again, we will see the health inspectors in town inspecting the compounds, inspecting the markets, inspecting the public places, inspecting the streets, and that also used to happen in the city of Banjul here, and it was very useful. So health inspectors will be going around very soon to make sure that our cities are clean and functional.
Despite an intensive campaign against the disease and provision of heavily subsidized anti-malaria drugs by the government, women and children are still dying from malaria. The deputy mayor of Banjul, Omar B.J. Toure, described the disease transmitted by mosquitoes as dangerous.
And malaria is a very dangerous one. Though we are in this COVID, that's why all these diseases are covered because of the coronavirus. But malaria is with us every day, every second. People are dying because of malaria. And when malaria come to your house or to your community, you will not look at the young ones or the elder one. Even COVID, we are talking about the young ones are the carriers. You're targeting the old ones. But for malaria, you will not spare anybody.
The Minister of Health also encourages people, especially women, to sleep under mosquito nets to protect themselves from malaria.
It is fashionable to sleep under the net. People think it's not fashionable, but as long as it protects us against malaria, I think it is good. So we also want to encourage the women. We want to encourage the women to make sure that the children and even the men sleep under the mosquito nets. If the women want the men to sleep under the mosquito net, everybody will sleep under the mosquito net.
Malaria remains a major public health problem associated with poverty, and it is one of the main obstacles to the economy of an endemic country. Among the several complications, the effects of malaria seem to target the skeletal muscle system, leading to symptoms such as muscle contractures, muscle fatigue, and muscle weakness. This can often be prevented by the use of anti-malaria drugs and the use of protection measures against mosquito bites. For iAfrica News, I am Daisy.
Health authorities there to intensify fight against malaria in the capital city, Banjul, and from the fight against malaria now to matters of COVID-19 again. Now, as the coronavirus pandemic continues to spread around the world, Egyptian authorities have warned citizens and owners of public places to respect the imposed health guidelines or face punishment. Since the government relaxed the necessary emergency health regulations, the public were rather complacent, resulting in surge of COVID-19 cases in the country. The government's decision to order some businesses to close earlier than usual has not been welcomed by everyone, despite it's expected to limit to the number of cases in the country. Let's have more details of that in this report.
Officials fear this could be the start of a second wave of coronavirus infections that could be more devastating than the earlier one. Many Egyptians have relaxed observing precautionary measures, leading infections to double last week's figures. At 200 infections a day, the number of cases is still much lower than the peak levels of 1,200 per day recorded in June. Health officials hope a strong emphasis on observing health regulations will help save many lives.
When the lockdown and curfews were lifted a couple of months ago, people thought that things were fine and disregarded personal health measures as if the coronavirus doesn't exist anymore. I use the underground metro. I always hear health awareness messages broadcast on speakers in all stations, but no one is listening and most of the passengers are not wearing masks.
The government's response this week has been to increase fines on individuals who don't abide by the outlined health regulations. Restaurants, hotels, and other service providers will be closed down immediately if they break the safety rules, such as social distancing, wearing masks, and operating at 50% capacity. But what has really caused an uproar for businesses is the plan announced by the cabinet spokesman to permanently close all facilities like shops, restaurants, cafes, and malls 3 or 4 hours earlier than usual.
It will affect us badly. If they allow us to close at midnight, it would be okay, but not 10 p.m. The workers will suffer the most, not just the owner. Egyptians prefer to go out at night and stay out late. This is the best time for our work. We could lose more than 40% of our income if we close early. I will have to reduce the number of workers here.
Some experts believe closing these facilities early is a wise move, even well after the COVID-19 pandemic.
It's not just because of the coronavirus. Closing early sustains social and economic stability. It means less environmental pollution, less energy and electricity consumption, and better traffic. It facilitates the mission of the police to maintain security and safety at night. It also allows authorities to clean the cities after shops close.
In its meeting, the government has shied away from closing schools as anticipated, but warned of a new lockdown if the numbers of infections keeps rising.
And from the reporter in Cairo, Egypt, we finally bring this news text bulletin to an end. But for more details on this and other stories, as always, you can log on to our website, tunafrica.tv. But you can join Sohna Tunkra at 17:30 GMT, that's 5:30 local time for the World Today News Bulletin. But for now, many thanks for the pleasure of your company. Thanks for watching, stay safe, and bye for now.